Some days I come to Crag, so I think to myself, why is it so quiet today? Great weather, great rock. Even at the weekend sometimes, traumatic on a bank holiday is a classic one where you expect it to be dead busy. Actually, it's often really quiet. Today though, it's a grey day here in the slate quarries. I'm not surprised there's no one else here. Bus stop quarry. I'm not sure if I've done a video before. Yes, I have actually, I remember. Cool wall here, fool's gold, Beltane. There's video on YouTube somewhere of me getting grumpy falling off the top of that before I got it. Classic solstice, classic equinox, some stuff up there, stuff in the wet bit. This is the video I've done before actually, Nat Attack. I'm pretty sure I did that. Either that or Masambula. I think it was Nat Attack E1. Quality, like a non-existent walk-in, you can see the van down there. And it dries really quick, that's why I've come. It's a little bit of a shaky forecast. It's been raining a bit this morning, but actually it's a bit damp up there. It's a bit mossy on like the Nat Attack wall, even though the holds are super clean. But I'm gonna look at this route here, and this looks as dry as a dry thing, which is ace. It does dry super quick, the slate, and it is still spitting a bit, but it seems to be drying. You can see, go and find the right crack, that crack, diddle 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 there, up there, up in that crack, up and away to the top. What an amazing bit of rock. Looks awesome, doesn't it? Done it loads of times. I've never ever tired of doing it. E1 5C. So that's a little bit harder than an average E1, but that would imply it's pretty safe, and it is. So I'm thinking this could be a good first E1 for someone. I've certainly, with work, put people on that as their first E1 before. If you know the beta, it might be a bit steady for 5C. In fact, it's very steady for 5C if you know the beta. If you don't know, it can feel quite different. So if you don't want the beta, this isn't the video for you, but it might make a good first E1. So I thought I'd film it, talk through it as I often do, and look at the kit that I bring for E1 as well. So you'll join me in a minute having had a faff with the kit, and I'll talk through that sort of thing. Try and keep this fairly short and sharp, because I think the forecast is for it to get worse. It's already spitting with rain a little bit more than it was a moment ago. I'm going to do a review of these shoes soon that Dark Ventures kindly sent us. Unparalleled rock guys. Been using them for a bit, but I want to use them a bit more before I do a review on them. I'm using a single rope today because I can't be bothered with the faff of two ropes. It's a pretty straight line apart from one little kink for one bit of gear. So I'm just using a Joker 9.1. It's actually triple rated, but I'll just use it as a single today. As always, I wear a helmet on trad by default, black diamond vision, thanks to Outside for many of these bits. Rock shoes from Evolve. These are my absolute sort of go-to all-rounders. You can see they're looking a bit dirty and tatty. Relatively stiff, so I'd say stiff rather than soft, but not super stiff, not like TC Pros or anything like that. They start off a bit downturn, but I've worn these a lot. I like Velcros, they fit me really well. Size-wise, I wear 12. And these are, he says, fiddling with the little thing, these are an 11, so I set down size one size, and they work well for me. Worn them on all sorts of stuff, probably up to about E2-ish, and then I'd wear something different, but as a general all-rounder, flipping great, flipping comfy. Blue ice harness, you've seen that in other videos, wear that for loads of stuff. And then what I'd actually take on a route, now this is a generic E1 kind of route. This is my personal kit that I take on any route ever really, sort of multi-pitching and stuff. Couple of slings, 120s, 1 240, carry them on snap gates, 3 spare screw gates including one big one, a boa. You know I like the Giga Jewel from other videos, that's obviously on a screw gate itself. Nut key, couple of cross 6 sewn ones because I like them. Next up, onto the rack of stuff. This is generic E1, so this is not specifically for this route, I'll come on to that in a minute, but this is what I take to a crag if I was doing E1-ish kind of stuff. Set of cams, silver to blue. I have black diamond on my personal kit. I also, around E1, add in a couple of smaller ones. Totem basics for me, because they're the nicest ones I think, although you can't buy them anymore, so it's kind of a moot point if you're trying to buy your own, but they come into their own at that kind of grade. Again, at the E1 sort of level, I start to think about taking micros. Not on every E1, depends on the rock type a bit, but on an E1 sort of rack, I'd like to have a set of micros. DMM imps, I've got a mix of normals and the offset ones. And then either offsets or the half nuts. I prefer the offsets actually. I think these are a little bit more niche, but that's, you know, partly down to the rock types I climb on and stuff like that. Similar that they've got that second profile that's a bit different to normal nuts. Lighter because they're one wire, weaker but not by anything that really concerns me, to be honest, until you get in the smaller sizes, but then they're more comparable to the micro brass ones anyway. And then a set of normal nuts, two sets really. There might be the odd size missing, but pretty much two sets of walnuts for me. You can put one set of walnuts, one set of DMM rocks, or whatever flavour you want, but I just like the walnuts. They work really well for me. So spread out over colour-coded crabs. Same with the cams, they're on their own colour, so I know exactly what I'm reaching for. Even though I know where they are on my harness, I can get them quickly. Gold for gold standard, they're big uns. Blue for the average, because it's my favourite colour. Purple for getting a bit small. Red on the micros for danger micros, that kind of thing. And then I've got a couple of random slings. I don't take any more slings than I already had on there unless it's for a particular reason. But then just a range of quick draws from sort of shorties up to like 4 extendables, and I'll probably have like 14 by default on here. That's what I take everywhere. There's no hexes. I don't tend to take hexes. Maybe if I was climbing on the Ruckle down in Swanage, I would. You'll also notice there's no tricams. I just don't have any. I don't use them, but always someone says, why haven't you got tricams? I've just never felt the need. Some people really like them. Great in winter, great on some rock types, but I've just never felt the need, so I haven't got any. That's what I take. So even coming here on the slate, actually it's rare, not unheard of by any stretch, but you don't normally need the bigger cams. But I'd still chuck this same rack into my bag. But when I come to like Fool's Gold, for example, I'm going to carry a lot less. So I won't keep rabbiting on. We'll get on and climb the route, and then we'll look afterwards at what I used on the route and that kind of stuff. So I'm going to faff around trying to set the GoPro up and have a battle with that thing and set up some other angles and all that, and you'll join me climbing what is a route that I really love, to be fair. I think I might have fallen off it the first time I did it, but hopefully not today, not unless the rain really starts anyway. First bit of the climbing is really steady. It's worth getting a piece or two in just in case you have a slip. We can slip off anything, especially if it's a bit damp, but actually it feels good, the rock. This is where the climbing gets a bit tricky. You end up stood mega ledge, mega hands and everything. You can breathe proper hands off here, and the key is you reach around the corner, get an absolute sinker nut in there, and then you can contemplate going up through the overlap bit, which is good fun. The tricky bit here is trusting your feet on them shiny holds. But what I'll do is I'm gonna sort of reach around in a second, make half a move and get a good high bit of gear. That way when you make the move you'll feel absolutely bulletproof and it's super safe, so you could come off it and you can then leave this ledge feeling really confident about the next few moves. You just have to string a few together, not many, and then you'll be away. that bit's the crux done. Just as the rain's coming down a bit harder now, you bang a couple of cams in, sinker one here, and they just get a bit bigger as you go. So I've got a purple, next one's a green, next one's a red, next one's a gold, and you're away to the top. Not going to hang around too long though, because the rain is pretty grim now. Well, it's fair to say I got properly soaked on the top of that. Some people moan about me wearing jeans sometimes, but it's right by the car, so I'm not going to die of hypothermia or anything. I am pretty wet though. Just after I spoke to the camera for the last time, it got really heavy then. I put the drone in the air to get some shots of the top bit. It was chucking it down by that point. Hopefully some of that footage came out. And I sort of chalked up and then realised that was entirely pointless. It just turned to like toothpaste on the ledges. It was so wet. Kind of stopped and brightening up again now. I'll talk a bit about the route and stuff in a minute. Whilst it might be a good firsty one, I wouldn't recommend doing it in the wet particularly. It was all right because I know it really well, so I was happy with it. But slate isn't at its best when it's as wet as a wet thing. Well, I'm starting to dry off, not that the rock is, it's still absolutely soaking, but I thought I'd run through the kit that I used and a few bits and pieces about the route. It's really nice. I wouldn't choose to do it in the wet. Slate in the wet is pretty desperate, but thankfully the top bit is easier. That kind of route, first bit's super steady up the first section to that little overlap, the overhang part. You get a couple of bits of gear in, like I said, en route. You get more in if you want. But then you start the crux, and I wouldn't have done that crux in the wet, I don't think. I'm not sure the feet would have stuck. But once you pass the crux couple of bits of gear, it just gets easier and easier as you go to the top, and you can kind of wedge your feet in and things, thankfully. So I was quite grateful at that when I was up there, even though it's super safe. So even if I had slipped off, nothing too bad would have happened really. The bits of gear, you know, you can see the general gist. The first few bits were nuts. Yeah, small to medium, so I used a half nut and offset would have gone in there as well. These aren't the only bits you could place, you could mix these up, but the sort of key one is reaching around to get that number 4 in. That's absolutely sinker, so you know, worst case, if you slip off that crux, you know, that's not going anywhere. And what I do is I bump up into the crux a little bit and then reach up and get a good number 3 in, and it's a good nut placement. The rock is a bit boomy though. It's all attached at the moment, but it won't be forever. You could get a slightly bigger nut in as well, which might be a good idea actually in case anything does move. It feels like it's kind of keyed in if it does crack or whatever, but it's not going to be there forever, like I say. After that though, the gear goes back into like a big solid crack, solid for slate. It's all moving slowly and slowly over time. But then it just goes into cams. So I placed silver up to red, and at the very top you definitely get a gold in as well. The thing I don't normally place, I wish I'd had that gold actually, because it was wet and I'm usually pretty happy at that point, but it would have been nice to have it. The thing I placed that I don't normally is I used a little thread. I say I don't normally because I'm normally happy to bang through those moves, but as I've said, that gave me a bit of extra headspace for the top bit. Is it a good first E1? That was kind of half the point of the video, wasn't it? I think so. If it's your style, it's just about slab. I mean, it's following a crack, but it's not vertical. It's just about sort of slab style. So if that's your thing, it feels pretty straightforward, and it certainly feels straightforward the more you do it. It's one of those routes that it's really fun and super safe. So I think it's worth giving a go as your first E1 if it does suit you. Equally, you walk off the top, which means you can walk to the top. So when you're breaking into a new grade, the on-site might mean something really special to you. But if it doesn't, when you're breaking into a grade, just, you know, ab down it, look at the kit, put a top rope on it, try it once, you know, and you can sort of bring it down to your level a bit. That's just a nice way of easing into a grade, really. So you certainly got that option, because at the top it's just 2 bolts, so it's super simple to do that. Just be careful of ropes running over edges and things, because it is slaty, of course, and that can be super sharp. So I hope that was a bit of fun. I hope you enjoyed watching me get an absolute soaking on the top of it. Maybe it made me climb a bit quicker because I'm usually super slow, so maybe that was a bonus of it all anyway. As always, chuck the questions in the comments below. Happy to answer as best I can. All the support massively appreciated. Find us on Insta, on Facebook, using the Buy Me a Coffee link, clicking the like button, smashing the subscribe button, all those things that people do loads, massively appreciated. As always though, thanks very much for watching. More videos coming up very soon.